Welcome to our deep dive. You ready to explore the big, bold mindset?
Absolutely. I'm excited to unpack this one with you.
Me too. This is by Casper Craven, and it's all about
Yeah.
empowering leaders
Empowering leaders.
to be bolder in their thinking and actions.
Yeah.
And I think what I really like about Craven's approach is that he gives us really tangible frameworks and exercises.
Yeah. It's not just like fluffy theory stuff, right?
Yeah,
He actually gives you things that you can use to kind of shift your mindset and approach things with a little bit more courage.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm already intrigued by some of the things I've seen, like the three hats method.
Oh, yeah.
And redrawing the charts.
So good.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the beginning with Chapter 1. What do you think of this idea of time-focused distribution?
Oh, I love this concept. I think it's so fascinating because it seems so simple on the surface, right? Like, how much time are you spending thinking about the past, present, and future? But it has huge implications for leadership when you really think about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because if you have a leader who's always dwelling on the past and maybe mistakes that have been made, they might miss out on, future opportunities. Or if they're too fixated on the future, they might neglect the things that need to get done like today.
That's a great point. It's like you're steering a ship and you're only looking at the wake or only at the horizon.
Exactly.
You need to be aware of both to chart a successful course. And that's where I thought Craven's exercise about kind of picturing your focus as a pie chart was really interesting. Like how much of that pie goes to the past, present, and future.
Yeah.
It's a good way to kind of check in with yourself.
I think it is a really good way to become more self-aware. And then you think about it like in terms of teams, if you have a team where everybody has a totally different time orientation, that could be chaos. So understanding those biases is so important for the team dynamics, for decision-making, for communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you're thinking about things like conflict resolution.
Absolutely.
Or even just building consensus around a shared vision.
Yeah.
If everyone's operating on a different timeline.
Yeah.
So this is where Craven introduces the three hats method.
Right.
Which I have to admit, when I first read it, I was like,
Oh, yeah.
is this a team building exercise? Like we all have to grab different colored hats. What did you think?
I chuckled a little bit to myself, but I think the visual element of it is actually quite clever because, he says, grab like a blue hat for the past, a black hat for the future, and then green for the present.
Okay.
And each hat has a specific set of questions that you ask yourself or your team. So with the blue hat, you're really encouraging this, past reflection. So it's like, what have we learned from past projects? What are the customer insights that we can glean from previous experiences?
Okay, so it's not just about wearing silly hats. It's about actually prompting a structured discussion.
Then you put on the black hat.
Okay.
And that's where you encourage this bold envisioning. So what does the perfect future look like for our team or our company? What does that look like for our industry as a whole?
And that can help people kind of break free of some of their limiting beliefs about what's possible.
Totally. And then finally, you bring it back down to the present with the green hat, and you say, okay, so knowing what we know about the past and the future, what concrete actions can we take today to start bridging that gap?
So it's all about taking those big, bold dreams and turning them into concrete steps.
Love it.
I love it. So by the end of this first chapter, we're left with a much deeper understanding of how our perception of time really impacts our leadership.
Yes.
And we're given these tools like this three hats method to start thinking about how to address those challenges.
Yeah, I think so much of leadership is about self-awareness, but as you mentioned, that's just the beginning, right? Then you have to move into action. And so I love that in Chapter 2, Craven takes us to this next step with redrawing the charts.
Yeah, and I love how he uses that analogy of the old nautical charts, leading ships astray. So it's like you're clinging to this map of the world before the continent shifted.
Before the continent shifted.
You might end up shipwrecked.
Exactly.
So he's saying that we need to constantly be questioning our assumptions about how things work, about our markets, our competitors.
Or with ourselves
even our own capabilities. And this really reminded me of Clayton Christensen's work on disruptive innovation.
It does.
I remember The Innovator's Dilemma.
Oh, yes. Classic.
And he was talking about how these established companies often fail because they're so focused on serving their existing customers and protecting what they already have that they miss out on these emerging technologies and markets.
It's like they become victims of their own success in a way, right?
Seriously.
You're playing it safe,
sailing the seas
Yeah.
that they know that they don't even realize there are new continents out there to be discovered. So
Exactly. And I think that's why the exercise that Craven gives in this chapter is so powerful, this future ecosystem, one where he really encourages us to step outside of the present day and really imagine, like, okay, fast forward 5 years.
yeah.
What does the world look like then? And think about the industry that you're in. What are the trends that are emerging? Who are the new players?
Yeah.
And what parts of the ecosystem are going to become commoditized? And where is the real value going to lie
Right.
in this future world?
It's all about trying to anticipate change rather than just
instead of just reacting
to it. But honestly, it's incredibly difficult. Like, how can we predict what the world will look like in 5 years, let alone make decisions based on those predictions?
Yeah. It is a challenge, and there are definitely some pitfalls to watch out for. He talks about present-day anchoring, which is what you were saying about those companies that are clinging to their existing assets and their ways of doing things. So they're anchored to the present, and they miss out on those opportunities.
Yeah. It's like that saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
That's right. And then he talks about the success trap.
Right.
Which is where we become complacent because of our past victories.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
We're resting on our laurels.
We're resting on our laurels, and we think that what worked before is going to continue to work in the future, and that's just a dangerous assumption to make in a world that's changing so rapidly.
So to truly redraw the charts, we need to be willing to see the world with fresh eyes. We need to be willing to challenge those deeply ingrained assumptions. And I think that leads us really well into Chapter 3, where Craven tackles the difference between opinions and facts.
Absolutely.
So how does he approach that?
Well, he argues that opinions often kind of masquerade as facts.
Okay.
And that can really limit our thinking. So, think about a time when somebody told you that your idea was too risky or it wouldn't work. Was that an objective truth?
Yeah.
Or was that just their opinion based on their own limited experience and perspective?
And we often internalize those opinions and let them kind of dictate our choices.
I know, it's so true.
Even when they're not based in reality.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into this bigger conversation around our resistance to change.
Yeah.
Craven draws on Rosabeth Moss Kanter's work here, which highlights all these different reasons why we kind of shy away from the unknown. And I'm sure some of it is fear of failure.
Of course.
But what were some of the other things?
Yeah, there's the, discomfort with difference and the anxiety about, like, increased workload or even a perceived loss of control.
Yeah.
And, sometimes those anxieties are valid, but sometimes they're really holding us back.
It's like we're clinging to the familiar.
Exactly.
Even if it's not working.
Right.
Because it feels safer than venturing into the unknown.
It feels safer. And that kind of thinking is exactly what prevents us from achieving bold things.
We need to be willing to challenge those beliefs and cultivate a stronger sense of belief in ourselves, which leads us perfectly into Chapter 4, where Craven dives deep into the power of belief. And I like how he doesn't just offer these empty platitudes like believe in yourself.
Yeah.
He actually ties this to research.
He does.
Showing that belief can be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. So when we believe that we can succeed, we're actually more likely to put in the effort and persevere through challenges.
It's almost like our beliefs create this mental framework that shapes our actions.
Exactly.
And then ultimately influences the outcomes.
And it creates this, positive feedback loop, right?
Right.
If you believe you're capable of something, you're going to act in ways that support that belief, which is going to make you even more likely to succeed.
Yeah.
So it just keeps building on itself.
So how do we start to cultivate this belief? Like, what are some practical things he offers?
Yes.
He offers so many great strategies in this chapter. So he talks about visualization, but he even, takes a step further. And he talks about Emily Balcetis's work, which distinguishes between like a broad focus and a narrow focus.
Okay.
So sometimes we need that, that broad focus to keep us motivated in the long run.
Right.
So, imagine that big, bold future that you want to create. But then when we're facing like a specific challenge, that narrow focus is what helps us kind of overcome that obstacle and achieve those smaller wins that build momentum. So, imagine yourself successfully completing that next crucial step.
It's like the difference between visualizing the entire marathon you're about to run
versus just focusing on overtaking the runner in front of you.
Exactly. And he also talks about the importance of celebrating those small wins.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind and forget to
pause and
to progress.
Celebrate those little wins.
Yes, exactly.
That's a great point. So we're starting to build this foundation of belief in ourselves and in our vision. But how do we translate that belief into action? Like, what's next?
Well, that's a great question, and that's where Chapter 5 comes in, but I think this is a great place to kind of pause for now.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And we'll pick back up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Casper Craven's The Big Bold Mindset.
It's great to be back.
I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
We laid a really good foundation, I think, in those first 4 chapters. We explored the power of belief and the importance of challenging assumptions and all that.
Yeah.
But now I'm really curious to see how we actually translate those beliefs into action. How do we make it real?
That's a great question, and that is exactly where Chapter 5 comes in.
Okay.
Craven shifts gears a little bit here and introduces this concept of the discipline of execution.
Discipline.
Yeah.
That sounds a little daunting.
I know, it kind of does.
Like something out of a military training manual or something.
Yeah, like boot camp for bold leaders.
Yeah, exactly.
But I promise it's not that intense. Craven's approach is really more about bridging that gap between intention and action. And I love the analogy that he uses to illustrate this. It's the bridge analogy.
Okay, the bridge analogy, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So imagine you have this bridge, right? And it has 2 strong pillars.
Okay.
One pillar represents intention, so those big, bold ideas that we've been talking about cultivating.
Right.
And the other pillar represents execution.
Okay.
So the actual steps that we take to make those ideas a reality and the road that connects those 2 pillars, that's the discipline it takes. Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but it's so powerful because we all know that having a great idea is only half the battle, right?
It's true.
The real challenge is bringing it to life.
Right. And then you have to actually, do the thing.
Yeah.
You can't just sit around and have great ideas.
You can't just be an armchair quarterback, right? You got to get out there and
get in the game.
Make it happen.
And to help us do that, Craven breaks down this discipline of execution into 3 key principles.
3, okay.
Focus, leverage, and velocity.
Oh, those sound like buzzwords, but I'm sure there's more to it than that.
There is, but I mean, those words are chosen for a reason.
Right, they're important concepts.
They really are, and I think they apply to just about any field, not just leadership.
Right, success in any domain.
Exactly.
So let's unpack these principles.
Okay, let's do it.
Starting with focus.
All right, so Craven's argument is that in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with distractions.
Yeah. And we're pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah.
It's more important than ever to be ruthlessly focused. On the things that truly matter.
It's all about prioritizing.
It really is.
Saying no to the things that don't align with our goals.
Yes. Even if they seem like good opportunity on the surface.
Right. Even if they're shiny and sparkly.
So tempting.
So tempting. We got to stay focused.
We got to stay focused. And it's not just about individual focus either. He talks about the importance of organizational focus.
Okay, so what does that look like getting everyone in the company to wear blinders or something?
I mean, maybe metaphorically, right? But I think it's really about aligning everyone around that shared set of goals and priorities.
Okay.
What are the most important things we need to achieve as a company? And once that's clear, then it becomes much easier to eliminate those distractions.
Right. It's like creating that laser focus that propels the whole organization forward.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this ties into that idea of bold leadership. You can't achieve these big, audacious goals if you're kind of scattered and reactive.
Yeah, and constantly getting pulled in a million different directions.
You got to stay focused.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's focus.
Yes.
What about this idea of leverage?
Leverage. So this one's all about maximizing our impact.
Okay.
And Craven talks about, identifying and utilizing the resources and assets that are already available to us, both within the organization and, externally as well.
Okay, so it's about working smarter, not harder.
It's about leveraging our strengths, building those strategic partnerships, finding creative ways to amplify our efforts. So, could you partner with another organization to reach a wider audience? Could you leverage technology to automate certain tasks and free up your team to focus on those higher value activities?
Okay, it's all about being resourceful.
Yes.
And thinking outside the box to achieve our goal.
Love it.
Okay, so we've got focus, we've got leverage. What about velocity? philosophy. This one sounds like it's all about speed.
You're right on track.
Okay.
In today's fast-paced world, it's not enough to just execute well. We need to execute quickly.
Right. So it's about being agile, responsive, and adaptable.
Precisely. And it requires a certain level of comfort with risk-taking and experimentation.
Okay.
Yeah. Craven encourages us to create a culture that embraces rapid iteration and continuous improvement.
Right. It's that whole fail fast, learn fast mentality.
Exactly. And being okay with not getting everything perfect on the first try, but learning from those missteps.
Yeah.
And, keep iterating, keep getting better.
So we've got these 3 principles: focus, leverage, velocity.
Yes.
All working together to create this framework for execution.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. I like it. But I'm thinking, even with the best laid plans and the most disciplined approach, there's still that question of authority.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who gets to call the shots? Who's in charge?
That's such a good point, and that's actually a crucial aspect of leadership that Craven addresses in Chapter 6.
Okay.
He tackles this question head-on with this idea of the permission to lead.
Okay. The permission to lead. I like that already.
Yeah, and it's so provocative because he starts by asking, who gave you permission to lead?
Right.
Which really challenges that traditional notion of leadership, like that it's something that's bestowed upon you by somebody who's, higher up on the food chain.
Yeah, like you have to wait for someone to give you a title before you can actually be a leader.
Exactly. And Craven's like, no.
You can just step up.
You can just step up.
And lead.
Exactly. True leadership is something that you earn.
Through your actions.
Through your actions and through your influence.
Okay, I love this. So he goes on to outline 5 key traits that are essential for building this kind of authentic, influential leadership.
Yes.
Okay, 5 traits. Lay them on me.
All right, so the first and maybe most obvious one is vision.
Vision.
Bold leaders have a clear sense of where they're going and what they want to achieve.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't inspire others to follow you if you don't know where you're headed.
Exactly. And it's not just about having a vision in your own head. It's about being able to articulate that vision.
Yeah, you got to communicate it.
You got to be able to communicate it in a way that inspires and motivates people.
Okay, so vision, that's number 1.
Yes.
What's number 2?
Courage.
Courage.
Okay. Bold leaders are willing to take risks, challenge the status quo, stand up for what they believe in, even when it's unpopular.
It's easy to go along with the crowd.
I know.
But it takes real courage to stand out and chart your own course.
Yeah, it does. But it's essential for driving change.
Yeah, if you want to make an impact, you got to be bold.
Got to be bold. All right, so that was courage.
Sure so.
The third one might surprise you. It's empathy.
Empathy? Okay, that doesn't sound very bold.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But Craven actually argues that bold leaders are deeply empathetic. They can connect with others on a human level, understand their perspectives, and build strong relationships.
Okay, so it's not just about barking orders and demanding results.
Yeah.
It's about understanding and motivating the people who are actually doing the work.
That's right. Leadership is about people.
It's about people.
It is.
Okay, I'm liking this, and this kind of ties into the next trait, right?
Yes, it does.
Which is communication.
Communication.
That's essential in any leadership role.
Absolutely.
But it seems particularly important when you're trying to drive these big, bold changes.
Yes. You got to be able to communicate that vision.
Communicate the vision, get people on board.
Bring people along with you.
Okay, and then the 5th and final trait.
This one is resilience.
Resilience.
Bold leaders are able to bounce back from setbacks, learn from their failures, and keep moving forward even when things get tough.
I like how Craven frames this as, anyone can step up and be a leader. It's not about waiting for permission.
Yeah.
It's about embodying these traits.
It's empowering, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's about stepping into that role.
Yeah, and recognizing that we all have the potential to lead in our own way.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered, the discipline of execution. We've talked about the permission to lead.
Yeah.
What's next on our journey here?
Well, in Chapter 7, Craven introduces this concept that I think is so relevant in today's world. It's the power of purpose.
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 It's a buzzword these days.
It is. Everybody and their brother is talking about purpose.
Every company is like, oh, we're purpose-driven.
We're purpose-driven.
But I'm curious, what's Craven's take on this?
Well, he argues that in a world that's, increasingly complex, fast-paced, uncertain, all of that, having a strong sense of purpose is absolutely essential for both individual and organizational success.
Okay, so it's not just about profits or, shareholder value.
It goes deeper than that.
It's about something more meaningful.
It is. And he connects this to, a growing body of research that shows that purpose-driven organizations are more innovative, they're more engaged.
Right.
And ultimately more successful.
Yeah, it makes sense if people feel like their work has meaning and they're contributing to something bigger than themselves. They're going to be more invested.
Of course they are.
They're going to be more motivated.
Absolutely. And to help us kind of tap into that purpose, he outlines this framework for defining and activating purpose within an organization.
I like it.
He calls it the purpose-driven organization.
The purpose-driven organization, lay it on me. What are the key elements here?
Okay, so the first step, and this one is the big one, is to define your core purpose.
Define your core purpose. Okay.
What is the fundamental reason why your organization exists?
Okay.
And it's got to be beyond just making money.
Right.
It's the impact you want to have on the world.
That's a deep question.
It is a deep question.
Like, how do you even begin to answer that?
I know it can feel overwhelming, but Craven offers some helpful guiding questions to get to the heart of it.
Okay.
One of my favorites is, what would the world be missing if your organization didn't exist?
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, it forces you to think about that unique value.
Right. It's not just about what you do, it's about the difference that you make.
Exactly. And once you've defined that core purpose, the next step is to embed it into everything you do.
Okay.
So it can't just be a nice sounding mission statement.
Right. It can't just be something you put on your website and forget about.
Exactly. It has to be woven into the fabric of the organization.
Okay.
From your strategy and your operations to your culture and your values.
So it influences everything.
Everything.
From hiring decisions to performance reviews.
Yes.
To how you measure success.
Actually, every decision, every action should be aligned with that core purpose.
That's a tall order.
It is a tall order.
But I can see how it would be incredibly powerful.
It would be so powerful.
If you can actually achieve that level of alignment.
Right, and it's not easy.
No.
But Craven argues that it's essential for creating a truly purpose-driven organization that can attract and retain top talent, inspire innovation, and, make a real difference in the world.
So it's not just about doing good. It's about doing well, too.
Exactly. Purpose and profit are not mutually exclusive.
Right. They can reinforce each other.
They can absolutely reinforce each other. And, he provides really compelling examples of organizations that have done this really well.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
So we've got the power of belief, the discipline of execution, the permission to lead, and now the power of purpose.
It's all coming together.
I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together to create this framework for bold leadership.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. But I'm guessing there's even more to come.
Oh, there's more. There's definitely more.
Okay.
We've still got a few more chapters to explore, including one that really dives into the importance of building that strong culture.
Okay.
And another one that focuses on the role of technology in driving bold innovation.
We're just getting started.
I know, right?
We're just scratching the surface here.
We've got so much more to unpack.
And speaking of scratching the surface, maybe this is a good place to pause.
Yeah.
And let all this soak in.
Let it soak in?
Let it marinate for a bit.
Yes. Give it some time to marinate.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in these last 3 chapters.
We have.
I think it's important to give our listeners some time to digest these insights.
Absolutely.
And maybe reflect on how they might apply these things in their own lives and their own work.
Yes, that's a great point.
Okay, so we'll pick back up with those final chapters and all of Craven's concluding thoughts in part 3 of our deep dive. All right, welcome back to part 3 of our deep dive into Caspar Craven's The Big Bold Mindset.
It's great to be back.
I feel like we've been on quite a journey so far,
We have.
We've talked about the power of belief, the discipline of execution, the importance of purpose, all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm really eager to see how Craven kind of brings all of these threads together.
Me too. And I think you'll notice that as we get into these final chapters, he really starts to kind of weave everything together and paint this more holistic picture of what it means to be a bold leader in today's world.
Okay, well, let's jump right into chapter 8 then, where Craven tackles this topic of building a bold culture.
Yes, this is such an important chapter.
Yeah, you can't really have bold leadership without a culture that supports it.
Exactly. Craven argues that you can't really achieve bold things unless you have a culture that encourages that kind of thinking and behavior.
Yeah, it's not enough to just have a few bold leaders at the top.
No, it has to be like a company-wide.
Right, the whole organization needs to be aligned.
Yes, exactly. And so he outlines what he calls the 7 pillars of a bold culture.
7 pillars. Okay, that sounds like a lot.
I know it's a lot to keep track of, but they all kind of build on each other.
Okay, well, let's break it down then.
Okay, so pillar number 1 is psychological safety.
Okay, psychological safety.
Have you heard of this concept before?
I have, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure I understand what it means.
Can you explain it?
Yeah, of course. So basically, it's about creating an environment where people feel comfortable taking risks, sharing their ideas, and even making mistakes without fear of being punished or, judged.
Right, because if you're constantly worried about getting in trouble for every little misstep, you're not going to be very inclined to try new things.
Exactly, and you're certainly not going to speak up with bold new ideas.
You're going to play it safe.
You're going to play it safe, exactly. So psychological safety is essential for fostering that kind of creativity and innovation.
Okay, so that's pillar number 1.
That's pillar number 1.
What's next?
Okay, pillar number 2 is transparency.
Transparency, okay.
Old cultures are open and honest.
Okay.
Both internally and externally. They share information freely.
Right.
And they encourage open dialogue.
Yeah, transparency is such a big topic these days.
It is.
Especially, after all those corporate scandals.
Right, but it's not just about avoiding bad press.
Right.
It's about building trust and empowering people.
Okay, so it's about creating this sense of shared responsibility.
Exactly. When people feel like they're in the loop.
Right.
They're much more likely to be engaged.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got psychological safety, we've got transparency. What's number 3?
All right, pillar number 3 is empowerment.
Empowerment.
Bold cultures give people the autonomy and the authority to make decisions and take action without needing to constantly get approval.
Okay, so it's not just about having bold ideas.
Right.
It's about actually having the freedom to act on them.
Exactly. It's about trusting people to do their jobs and giving them the space to be creative and innovative.
Yeah, and I can see how that ties back into psychological safety.
Absolutely.
You need to feel safe to experiment and take risks.
You do?
If you're going to truly feel empowered.
Exactly. All right, pillar number 4 is collaboration.
Collaboration, okay.
Bold cultures encourage people to work together, share ideas, and learn from each other.
Collaboration seems so simple.
It does, doesn't it?
But so many organizations struggle with it.
It's true. It's so much easier said than done.
It is.
Why is that?
I think it requires, breaking down silos and fostering that open communication.
Yeah, you have to create that environment where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas.
Exactly. And it goes back to that psychological safety piece, too.
Right. It all ties together.
It does. All right. So we've got psychological safety, transparency, empowerment, collaboration. What do you think number 5 is?
I don't know, learning maybe.
You got it. Pillar number 5 is learning.
Okay.
Bold cultures are committed to continuous learning and growth.
It's about always striving to improve.
Always striving to improve. Exactly. And they're not afraid to experiment.
Right. They embrace failure as a learning opportunity.
Exactly. Failure is not the enemy.
Right. It's just data.
It's just data. It's information.
Okay. So we're up to 5 pillars: psychological safety, transparency, empowerment, collaboration, learning. What's number 6?
Pillar number 6 is recognition.
Recognition. Okay.
So bold cultures celebrate wins, both big and small. Right? You got to celebrate those wins.
Yes. And it's so important to acknowledge the hard work and dedication.
Yeah, a little bit of appreciation can go a long way.
It really can. It can make all the difference.
Okay, so we've got 6 pillars: psychological safety, transparency, empowerment, collaboration, learning recognition. What's the final pillar?
This one brings us back to something we talked about earlier. It's purpose.
Purpose, right?
Bold cultures connect people to a deeper meaning and motivation behind their work.
So it's about more than just making money.
It's about making a difference.
Right. It's about contributing to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And when all 7 of these pillars are in place, you create this incredibly powerful culture that can fuel bold innovation.
I love it. Okay, so we've built this bold culture.
Yes.
Now in Chapter 9, Craven turns his attention to technology.
Yes.
And its role in enabling bold leadership.
This is a big one.
Yeah, and it's an area where things are changing so rapidly. How does Craven even begin to tackle this?
He acknowledges that technology is both an enabler and a disruptor,
Right. It can be a powerful tool, but it can also create a lot of new challenges.
Exactly. So it's not just about, adopting the latest gadgets.
Right.
It's about understanding how technology can be used strategically to achieve your goals and drive real value.
So it's about using technology in a way that supports bold leadership.
Exactly. And he highlights a few key trends that are shaping the future of leadership in the digital age.
Trends? Okay, I'm all ears. Give me the rundown.
All right, so one trend is the increasing importance of data and analytics.
Data and analytics, okay.
Bold leaders are using data to make better decisions, understand customer needs,
Right.
track their progress toward their goals.
It's like having this real-time dashboard.
Yes, exactly.
That gives you insights into what's working and what's not.
And then another trend is the rise of artificial intelligence.
AI.
And automation.
Right.
Bold leaders are using these technologies to automate tasks, improve efficiency.
Free up their people.
Free up their people to focus on more strategic work.
So it's not about replacing humans with robots.
No, it's about using technology to augment human capabilities.
I like that.
Okay, what else? He also talks about the importance of cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity, yeah.
Which is, huge these days as organizations become more reliant on technology.
Right, the stakes are higher.
Absolutely. So it's crucial to have those systems in place.
Right, to protect your data.
Yes, and to mitigate those risks.
Okay, cybersecurity makes sense. What's the last trend?
The last trend he highlights is digital transformation.
Digital transformation. Okay.
So bold leaders are really embracing digital technologies to transform their organizations, create new business models, deliver better customer experiences.
So it's all about using technology to drive innovation and stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And all of these trends are interconnected, and they're really shaping the future of leadership.
In ways that we probably can't even fully imagine yet.
Exactly. We're just at the beginning of this digital revolution.
It's an exciting time to be a leader.
It is. There's so much opportunity.
It is. Well, this has been a truly insightful exploration of the big, bold mindset.
It has been a good one.
I feel like I've gained a lot of valuable insights from this deep dive.
I'm glad to hear that.
What are some of the key takeaways that you hope our listeners will walk away with today?
Well, I hope they have a better understanding of what it really means to be a bold leader.
Yeah.
It's not just about taking risks or being charismatic.
Right.
It's about cultivating that mindset of growth, challenging those assumptions, building strong relationships, and leading with purpose.
And ultimately making a positive impact on the world.
Exactly.
I like that. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just that I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to take action.
Yeah, Craven's book is full of practical tools.
It is.
And exercises that people can use to develop their leadership skills.
Yes, and create a more innovative culture within their organizations.
It's not just about reading the book, it's about applying what you've learned. All right, well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the big, bold mindset.
This has been a good one.
It has. I feel inspired to go out there and be bold.
Me too.
So to our listeners, go out there and be bold. And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.